Betrayal at Five Poppies. Jocelyn's world crumbles as family secrets emerge. The luxurious Five Poppies resort in Croatia, once a facade of paradise, has become a prison of deception for WSB agents Jocelyn, Jax, and Vaughn. What began as a covert mission to investigate Professor Dalton's mysterious research has spiraled into a nightmare of capture, torture, and devastating revelations that will shake Jocelyn to her core. The trap closes. The sterile basement room at Five Poppies feels more like a tomb than a holding cell. Jocelyn struggles against the rough rope binding her wrists, the harsh fluorescent lights casting eerie shadows across the concrete walls. Beside her, Vaughn sits motionless in his chair, his face bearing the fresh bruises of Pascal's interrogation methods. The air is thick with tension and the metallic scent of fear. Pascal circles them like a predator, his cold eyes gleaming with satisfaction. The man who runs the Five Poppies resort has shed any pretense of hospitality. His crisp suit remains immaculate despite the violence he's orchestrated, a testament to his practiced brutality. For hours, he's alternated between psychological manipulation and physical intimidation, determined to extract every piece of information about their WSB mission. "You've caused quite a commotion," Pascal says, his accented voice carrying a note of dark amusement. "My employer is very interested in what the WSB knows about our operations here." Jocelyn's mind races, trying to process their predicament while fighting the waves of panic threatening to overwhelm her. The manicure scissors Britt had secretly passed to her earlier feel like a lifeline hidden in her pocket, but she needs the right moment to use them. Every fiber of her being screams to escape, to warn Brennan about the compromised mission. But first she must survive what's coming next. The devastating truth unfolds. Pascal's demeanor shifts suddenly, becoming almost conversational. "I think it's time we had a family discussion," he announces, his lips curving into a cruel smile. He gestures toward Vaughn, who has remained stoically silent throughout their ordeal. "What are you talking about?" Jocelyn demands, though something in Pascal's tone sends ice through her veins. "Oh, my dear agent, you really don't know, do you?" Pascal chuckles, the sound echoing off the concrete walls. "Allow me to introduce you properly to your partner. This is Agent S. Vaughn, my younger brother." The words hit Jocelyn like a physical blow. Her eyes dart to Vaughn, searching his face for denial, for any sign that Pascal is lying. Instead, she sees only resignation and guilt etched in his features. The man she's grown to trust, the agent she's developed feelings for during their undercover mission, has been living a lie. "Vaughn," she whispers, her voice barely audible. Pascal continues, clearly relishing the moment. "Did you really think his assignment to train you was coincidence? That his sudden romantic interest was genuine?" He leans closer to Jocelyn, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "My brother has been feeding information to me and our true employer from the very beginning." The revelation crashes over Jocelyn in waves. Every conversation they'd shared, every moment of vulnerability, every kiss they'd exchanged during their undercover romance, all of it tainted by deception. The WSB mission she'd believed in, the trust she'd placed in her partner, the growing connection she'd felt with Vaughn, everything has been a carefully orchestrated lie. A double agent's confession. Vaughn finally speaks, his voice hoarse from Pascal's earlier interrogation. "Joss, I can explain." "Explain what?" She cuts him off, her voice cracking with emotion and fury. "Explain how you've been reporting our every move to your brother. Explain how everything between us has been fake." Pascal watches the exchange with obvious pleasure, like a director observing his masterpiece unfold. "Oh, but it gets better," he interjects. "Tell her about the real purpose of this mission, brother." Vaughn's shoulders slump in defeat. The weight of his double life, the burden of betraying the woman he's come to genuinely care for, finally breaks through his carefully maintained facade. "The WSB thought they were sending us to investigate Dalton's research," he admits quietly. "But our real employer wanted us here for a different reason. You were never meant to return to Port Charles, Joss." The final piece of the puzzle slides into place with horrifying clarity. Jocelyn wasn't just betrayed by her partner, she was marked for elimination. From the moment she accepted the mission, the realization that Vaughn has been complicit in what amounts to a death sentence leaves her reeling. The mysterious puppet master. Who is it? Jocelyn demands, fighting against her restraints with renewed desperation. Who's pulling the strings? Pascal exchanges a meaningful look with Vaughn before answering. Someone who has very good reasons to want certain WSB operations neutralized. Someone who understands that knowledge can be more dangerous than any weapon. The brothers' cryptic responses only fuel Jocelyn's determination to escape. She can see the guilt eating away at Vaughn, the internal conflict between his loyalty to his family and whatever genuine feelings he may have developed for her, but sympathy for his predicament battles with her sense of betrayal and the urgent need to warn Brennan about the compromised operation. "Brennan trusted you," she says to Vaughn, her voice steady despite the emotional turmoil. "I trusted you." "I know," Vaughn replies, and for the first time, his voice carries real anguish. "I never expected. I didn't plan for things to become so complicated." Pascal's laugh cuts through the momentary vulnerability. "Complications are what happen when business becomes personal, little brother. That's why our employer prefers to keep things simple." Seeds of escape. As Pascal continues to gloat over his successful deception, Jocelyn's mind shifts into survival mode. The manicure scissors hidden in her pocket represent more than just a potential weapon. They're a symbol of hope, a reminder that allies like Britt are still fighting to help her escape this nightmare. She catches Vaughn's eye, noting the flicker of something regret, determination, or perhaps genuine love that passes across his features. Despite everything, despite the betrayal and deception, she senses that he's reached a crossroads. The question is whether he'll choose his brother's criminal enterprise or find the courage to help her escape. "You can still do the right thing," she whispers to him when Pascal turns away momentarily. Vaughn's expression hardens with resolve. "I know," he murmurs back, "and I will." The promise hangs between them like a fragile bridge over an abyss of broken trust. Jocelyn doesn't know if she can believe him, doesn't know if this isn't just another layer of manipulation. But right now, with Pascal's mysterious employer pulling strings from the shadows and her life hanging in the balance, Vaughn might be her only chance at survival. The race against time. As Pascal prepares to move them to another location, presumably for the final phase of whatever his employer has planned, Jocelyn knows that time is running out. The scissors in her pocket feel heavier with each passing moment, and she watches for any opportunity to use them. Meanwhile, Pascal's confidence in his control over the situation borders on arrogance. He's so pleased with the psychological torture he's inflicted, so satisfied with revealing the depths of the betrayal, that he's begun to lower his guard. It's exactly the kind of mistake that could provide the opening Jocelyn desperately needs. "Brennan will figure out what happened here," she tells Pascal defiantly. "The WSB doesn't abandon its agents." "Oh, my dear," Pascal replies with mock sympathy. "By the time anyone realizes what's happened, you'll be nothing more than another casualty of international espionage." A tragic end to a promising young agent who got in over her head. But even as he speaks these words, Pascal remains unaware that forces beyond his control are already in motion. Jason Morgan's rival at the resort, Britt's desperate attempts to help, and the growing suspicions within the WSB all represent threats to the carefully constructed web of deception that has ensnared Jocelyn and Vaughn. Breaking point. The emotional and psychological pressure finally reaches its crescendo when Pascal announces, "It's time to move them," as he moves to untie Vaughn first, clearly intending to use him as leverage to ensure Jocelyn's cooperation. She makes her move. The manicure scissors slice through her restraints with surprising ease, testament to the sharpness of the tool and the adrenaline coursing through her system. But escaping her bonds is only the beginning. She still needs to navigate past Pascal and his men, warn Brennan about the compromised mission, and somehow find a way to process the devastating betrayal that has turned her world upside down. As chaos erupts in the basement of Five Poppies, Jocelyn's training kicks in. Every lesson Brennan taught her, every skill she's developed as a WSB agent, now serves a single purpose: survival. But beyond the immediate physical danger, she faces an even greater challenge about her ability to trust in a world where the person closest to her has been her greatest enemy. The story of betrayal at Five Poppies is far from over. With Pascal and Vaughn's true allegiances revealed, with mysterious puppet masters still pulling strings from the shadows, and with Jocelyn's faith in everything she believed shattered, the real battle for survival, both physical and emotional, is just beginning. Whether Vaughn will ultimately choose redemption over family loyalty, whether Jocelyn can escape with her life and her sanity intact, and whether the truth about the mysterious employer behind the conspiracy will finally come to light, remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same for any of them after the devastating revelations in that basement room at Five Poppies. Next, we will learn about the explosive drama surrounding Alexis Davis as she finds herself trapped in an increasingly dangerous web of deception, With a potential search warrant threatening to expose her darkest secret, Lansing bound and gagged in her basement, Alexis Davis faces her worst nightmare. The tension in Port Charles has reached a boiling point as Alexis Davis finds herself thrust into the center of a murder investigation that could destroy everything she's worked to protect. The normally composed attorney is experiencing waves of paralyzing anxiety as the specter of a police search warrant looms over her lakeside home like a dark cloud, ready to unleash devastation. What makes this situation particularly treacherous is that Alexis harbors a secret so explosive it could shatter her family forever. She's holding Rick Lansing captive in her basement, a desperate act born from her fierce determination to shield her daughter Christina from the consequences of attempted murder. The irony of Alexis's predicament cannot be overstated. Here stands a woman who has spent her entire legal career upholding justice, now finding herself on the wrong side of the law in the most shocking way imaginable. The Drew Cain shooting has set off a chain reaction of investigations that threatens to expose not just one crime, but a complex web of interconnected secrets that could bring down multiple prominent Port Charles families. As Detective Dante Falconeri intensifies his investigation into potential suspects, Alexis realizes that her public threats against Drew have painted a bullseye on her back that may be impossible to remove. The mounting evidence against Alexis, the circumstantial evidence pointing toward Alexis, continues to accumulate like gathering storm clouds. Her heated confrontation with Drew over custody of her granddaughter Scout was witnessed by multiple people throughout Port Charles, creating a public record of her animosity that the PCPD cannot ignore. The restraining order Drew obtained against her only adds another layer of apparent motive, suggesting a pattern of escalating hostility that investigators find highly suspicious. When Dante arrived at her door seeking answers about her whereabouts during the shooting, Alexis's immediate invocation of her right to legal counsel, while legally sound, only served to heighten suspicions about her potential involvement. The detective's questioning revealed the weakness in Alexis's position. She lacks a credible alibi for the crucial time period when Drew was gunned down in cold blood. Her plan to use Ava Jerome and Christina Corinthos Davis as her alibi witnesses represents a dangerous gamble that could backfire spectacularly if investigators dig deeper into their stories. The three women's recent clandestine meetings and whispered conversations have not gone unnoticed by those around them, creating additional red flags that could draw unwanted attention to their conspiracy. Each attempt to cover their tracks seems to create new vulnerabilities, like trying to plug holes in a sinking ship while more water pours in from unexpected directions. The captive in the basement. Deep beneath Alexis's seemingly respectable home lies a secret that would shock even the most jaded residents of Port Charles. Rick Lansing, once one of the city's most prominent attorneys, now finds himself bound and gagged in a makeshift prison that mirrors the panic room he once used to hold Carly captive years ago. The poetic justice of his situation is not lost on those who remember his past crimes. But for Alexis, keeping him imprisoned represents both a necessary evil and a ticking time bomb that threatens to explode at any moment. The attorney's confinement stems from his attempted blackmail of Alexis over Christina's role in Ava's fall, a scheme that backfired when the three women decided to turn the tables on him. Ava's plan to wait for Rick's bonds to mature before releasing him seemed foolproof in theory, but the Drew Cain shooting has accelerated the timeline in ways none of them anticipated. Now, with police potentially securing a search warrant, the 30-day waiting period they had planned has become an impossibly long stretch of time, filled with mounting dangers and increasing desperation. A search warrant's devastating potential. The possibility of police obtaining a search warrant represents Alexis's worst nightmare coming to fruition. Investigators seeking evidence related to Drew's shooting, perhaps looking for the murder weapon or other incriminating materials, would inevitably discover far more than they bargained for in the form of Rick's imprisoned presence. The discovery would not only expose Alexis's involvement in kidnapping and false imprisonment, but it would also unravel the entire conspiracy involving Ava and Christina, potentially revealing Christina's attempted murder of Ava and the subsequent cover-up. The implications extend far beyond the immediate criminal charges Alexis would face. Her legal career would be destroyed, her reputation in shambles, and her family torn apart by the revelations that would inevitably follow. Monica Quartermain's recent agreement to help Jason convince Drew to keep Scout in Port Charles would become meaningless if Alexis finds herself facing serious criminal charges that could result in lengthy prison sentences. The custody battle over Scout that has consumed so much of Alexis's energy would be decided by default, with Drew's parental rights remaining unchallenged despite his controversial decisions. The dangerous game of musical secrets. As the investigation into Drew's shooting intensifies, Alexis faces an impossible decision about whether to relocate Rick before police can execute a potential search warrant. Moving a drugged and bound prisoner presents enormous logistical challenges and exponentially increases the risk of discovery by neighbors, law enforcement, or other unintended witnesses. The process would require careful planning, reliable transportation, and a secure alternative locational while maintaining the pretense of normal daily activities and avoiding suspicious behavior that might attract additional police attention. The alternate of leaving Rick in place and hoping police don't obtain a warrant or conduct a thorough search represents an equally dangerous gamble, with potentially catastrophic consequences. Rick's vehicle hidden in Alexis's shed represents another piece of damning evidence that could lead investigators directly to their captive, creating a trail of breadcrumbs that even the most incompetent detective could follow. The longer Rick remains on the property, the greater the chance that something will go wrong, whether through his escape attempts, discovery by unexpected visitors, or simple bad luck that brings unwanted attention to Alexis's home. The unraveling alliance. The pressure of the investigation is beginning to strain the alliance between Alexis, Ava, and Christina in ways that could prove disastrous for all involved. Each woman entered this conspiracy with different motivations and tolerance levels for risk, creating fault lines that threaten to crack under the mounting pressure of potential exposure. Ava's primary concern remains protecting herself from Christina's murder attempt, while Christina desperately wants to avoid prison for her actions, leaving Alexis caught between competing interests that may ultimately prove incompatible. The complexity of their interwoven secrets creates a situation where betrayal by any one member could bring down the entire conspiracy. If Christina buckles under pressure and confesses to authorities about her attempt to kill Ava, she might reveal details about Rick's imprisonment as part of a plea bargain. Similarly, if Ava decides that protecting herself requires throwing Alexis under the bus, she could provide information about the basement prison in exchange for immunity from prosecution. The web of mutual assured destruction that once protected their secret now threatens to strangle all of them if the bonds of trust continue to deteriorate. Under investigative pressure, Elizabeth's growing suspicions. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Baldwin's growing concern about Rick's sudden disappearance adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. As someone intimately familiar with Rick's habits and commitments, she's uniquely positioned to notice the inconsistencies in his absence that others might overlook. His failure to appear for Willow's case, combined with his uncharacteristic lack of communication, has triggered alarm bells that could lead to her own investigation into his whereabouts. If Elizabeth decides to dig deeper into Rick's disappearance, she might uncover clues that lead her directly to Alexis's basement, creating yet another potential pathway to discovery that the conspirators cannot control. The possibility that Elizabeth might overhear conversations between Alexis, Ava, and Christina, or notice their increasingly frequent private meetings, represents a wild card that could derail their plans at any moment. Her medical background and investigative instincts make her a formidable opponent. If she decides that something sinister has happened to Rick, and her determination to uncover the truth could prove unstoppable once set in motion. The ultimate reckoning. As these multiple storylines converge toward an inevitable climax, Alexis finds herself facing the possibility that all of her crimes past and present may finally catch up with her. The Drew shooting investigation threatens to expose not just her involvement in Rick's imprisonment, but potentially her previous embezzlement while being blackmailed, Christina's attempted murder of Ava, and the cover-up of the car crash that started this entire chain of events. The domino effect of revelations could destroy multiple families and send shockwaves through Port Charles that would be felt for years to come. The question now becomes whether Alexis can find a way to extricate herself and her family from this increasingly dangerous situation before it's too late, or if the search warrant she so desperately fears will finally bring her house of cards crashing down around her. With time running out and options dwindling, the next few days will determine whether the Davis family can survive the storm they've created, or if their secrets will finally destroy everything they've worked to protect.